Hello everyone, my name is Komang Ulanjani, you can call me Ulan. Here I will read my novel entitled Dubliners, which was written by James Joyce, and the thickness of my novel is 268 pages. I have read this novel until page 81. Now I will continue reading it from page 82. A little cold. 8 years before he had seen his friend off at the North Wall and wished him Godspeed, Gallagher had got on. You could tell that at once by his travelled air, his well-cut wit sweet and fierce accent. Few fellows has talent like his, and fewest still could remain unspoiled by such success. Gallagher's heart was in the right place and he had deserved to win. It was something to have a friend like that. Little Candace talks ever since lunchtime had been of his meeting with Gallagher, of Gallagher's invitation, and of the great city, London, where Gallagher lived. He was called Little Candler because though he was but slightly under the average stature, as he gave one the idea of being a little man. His hands were white and small. His face was fragile. His voice was quiet and his manners were refined. He took the greatest care of his fair silken hair and mustache and used perfume discreetly on his handkerchief. The half moons of his nails were perfect, and when he smiled, you caught a glimpse of a row of childish white teeth. As he sat at his desk in the King's Inns, he thought what changed those 8 years had brought. The friend whom he had known under shabby and necessitous Ghost had become a brilliant figure on the London press. He turned often from his tiresome writing to gaze out of the office window. The glow of a late autumn sunset covered the grass plot and walks. It cast a shower of kidney golden dust of the anti-ditty nurse and described of men who drowsed on the benches. It flickered upon all the moving figures on the children who ran screaming along the gravel paths, and on everyone who passed through the gardens. He wasn't the scans and talk of life. And as always happened when he talked of life, he became sad. A gentle melancholy took possession of him. He felt how useless it was to struggle against fortune, this being the burden of wisdom which the august had bequeathed to him. He remembered the books of purity upon his shelf at home. He had bought them in his bachelor days, and many an evening, as he sat in the little room of the hall, he had been tempted to take one down from the bookshelf and read out something to his wife. but shyness had always held him back, and so the books had remained on their shelf. At times he repeated lines to himself, and this consoled him. When his horse had struck, he stood up and took leave of his desk and of his fellow clerks punctiliously. He emerged from under the feudal arch of the King's Inns, a neat, modest figure, and walked swiftly down Henrietta Street. The golden sunset was waning and the air had grown sharp. A grimy children populated the street. They stood or ran in the roadway or crawled up the step before the gaping doors or squatted like mice upon the threshold. Little Candle gave them no thought. He picked his way deeply through all the minute vermin-like life, and under the shadow of the gaunt spectral mansions in which the old nobility of Dublin had roistered, no memory of the past touched him, for his mind was full of a present joy. He had never been in Colorado, but he knew the value of the name. He knew that people went there after the theater of eat oysters and drinks liqueurs, and he had learned that the waiters there spoke French and German. Walking swiftly by at night, he had seen cabs drawn up before the door and richly dressed ladies, escorted by cavaliers alike, and enter quickly. The wore nosy dress and many warps. Their faces were powdered and the count up their dress when the thoughts edged like armored Atalantas. He had always passed without turning his head to look. It was his habit to walk swiftly in the street, even by day, and whenever he found himself in the city late at night, he hurried on his way apprehensively and accidentally. Sometimes, however, he courted the cause of his fear. He chose the darkness and narrowest streets, and as he walked boldly forward, the silence that was spread about his footsteps troubled him. The wandering silent figures troubled him, and at times a shout of low fugitive laughs made and trembled like a leaf. He turned to the right towards Capel Street. Ignatius Gallagher and the London Press, who would like talk in possible 8 years before. Still, now that he reviewed the past, Little Candle could remember many sights of future greatness in his friend. People used to say the Ignatius Gallagher was Will. Of course, he did mix with a raucous set of fellows at that time, drank freely, and borrowed money on all sides. In the end, he had got mixed up in some shady affair some money transaction. At least that was version of his flight. But nobody denied him talent. There was always a certain something in Ignatius Gallagher that impressed you in spite of yourself. Even when he was out at elbows and at his wits' end for money, he keeps up a bold face. Little Genders remember, and the remembers brought a slight flush of pride to him takes one of Ignatius Gallagher saying when he was in a tight corner. "Help time now, boys," he used to say like heartedly. "Where's my considering cap?" That was Ignatius Gallagher all out. And damn it, you couldn't but admire him for it. Little Candler quickened his pace. For the first time in his life, he felt himself superior to the people he passed. For the first time, his soul revolted against the dull inelegance of Capel Street. There was no doubt about it. If you want to succeed, you had to go away. You could do nothing in Dublin. As he cursed Grattan pride, he looked down the river towards the lower quays and pitied the poor stunted house. They seemed to him a band of tramps huddled together along the riverbanks, their old coats covered with dust and soot, stupefied by the panorama of sunset and waiting for the first chill of night bid them arise, shake themselves, and be gone. He wondered whether he could write a poem to express his idea. Perhaps Gallagher might be able to get it into some London paper for him. Could he write something original? He was not sure what it wished to express, but the thought that panic moment had taught him took wave within him like an event hope. He stepped onward bravely. Every step brought him nearer to London, farther from his own sober inartistic life. A light began to tremble on the horizon of his mind. He was not so old, 32. His temperament might be said to be just at the point of maturity. There were so many different moods and impressions that he wished to express in verse. He felt them within him. He tried to wake his soul to see if it was a pure soul. Melancholy was the dominant note of his temperament, he thought, but it was melancholy tempered by recurrence of faith and resignation and simple joy. If he could give expression to it in a book of poems, perhaps men would listen. He would never be popular. He saw that. He could not show the crowd, but the main appeal to little circle of kindred minds. The English scripts perhaps would recognize him as one of the Celtic school by reason of the melancholy tone of his poems. Beside that, he would put in allusion. He began to even sentence and phrases from the note twice, which his book would get.